Well, hello, everybody. This is Dr. Troy Dukowitz of the Commit and Go podcast, where we encourage you to make big commitments, take big action, and create big-ass results in your life and business. Today's topic is this. Did you win or not? So I am today going, and we're actually picking up our I was going to say golf cart because I just saw a golf cart driving around in our cul-de-sac here. I was going to pick up our rental car as a result of having to bring my Cadillac in to get it fixed because of the tornado that my family and I were in really just about a week plus ago. And you can hear about that in the previous podcast. So as we're sitting and waiting to get the car, I am listening to a conversation that's going on between the woman and gentleman who are behind the counter. And this dude was basically talking about racing and how he liked to race. And then the girl asked him a question, which you could tell made him very, very uncomfortable. And it was this. So do you win? And he got very, very awkward and kind of fidgety. And he's like, well, it's actually, it's like different categories of races and they have different heats that you have to go through. She's like, well, but do you win when you race? And he's like, well, it's not like that. And she's like, do you win or not? And he's like, well, I haven't actually raced in this race before. To which she says, well, what have you done? And he says, well, I raced in other races. Oh, well, did you win? And he's still fidgeting around and like trying to avoid answering the question. And he says, well, you don't understand. It's all about times. And like you drive your car and then you get a time and then they like figure it out and then you win. And I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like, dude, what the hell are you talking? If it's all about times, if you have the fastest time, then you're going to win. And if you have the slowest time, you're going to lose. And yet he was not crossing the boundary of telling her that he had lost. And you could tell, she could tell, as she continued to ask him questions. Did you win? Did you win? Did you win? And he kept avoiding the answers. Even confusing, I think maybe even confusing himself. So what's the point of this? The point of this is that this is a dude who you could tell as he's sharing this, like, hey, look how cool I am. I raced my car. But all of a sudden, as she started confronting him about this and asking him questions about this, he started to lie. It was plain and simple. You could tell he was not telling the truth. Now, why wasn't he telling the truth? Most of the time when people don't tell the truth, it's because they're scared or because they're trying to impress somebody. I'm sure there's other scenarios that we can plug in here, but this was a scenario which I can tell you is that this dude was trying to impress the girl. Gee, a story made for Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen. A dude trying to impress the dudette. And as a result of it, though, he got caught in a lie. And see, the truth needs no defense. You're not going to get all awkward and shit when you're telling the truth. But when you're lying, you have to defend that. And he had to continue to defend it, which just made him look foolish, which just exposed him for being something that he wasn't, even though he would not admit it. And until the point that we walked out, he still did not admit it. And there's so many different directions you can go to in this conversation. And yet I look at scenario number one. Scenario number one is like, first of all, stop lying and tell the truth. The end. Stop lying, tell the truth. Some of you right now are lying to yourselves about where you are, the reality of where you're at right now. You're lying to yourselves. And so you're living in this fantasy world. So stop lying, start telling the truth. You may not like the truth. You may not like your current reality, but when you know what your current reality is, you can change it. Just like that, you can change it, but you got to be willing to stop lying and tell the truth. Number two is to just be proud of who you are and own who you are. If you think of this scenario, he's trying to impress the girl. Now, I get that. We've all been there. He's trying to impress the girl. And you could tell, it's blatantly obvious as I'm sitting there watching this conversation, he's trying to impress the girl. And the problem is that he's not owning who he is. All he had to do was tell the truth. I mean, think about this. He just had to tell the truth. Like, no, you know what? I'm just getting into it. I love racing. Like, it's such a rush. I love racing. Haven't really figured out the combination for winning yet. But I'm going to keep going until I do. Like, there's passion behind that. There's energy behind that. There's drive behind that. No pun intended. But yet, he'd rather go down this path of talking about how cool he is and how he races but he's not willing to expose himself. And this is a problem in society. It's a problem with social media. It's the problem Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. It's the problem with just being, people being. And they walk around and they act like something that they're not. As opposed to just living by the truth, stop lying, tell the truth, just living by the truth and being willing to be vulnerable and just share like, this is who I am. Like that's it. This is who I am. Yeah, I haven't really won yet. But to say that, like think about that. If you were to say right now, like, yeah, I haven't won yet. Like that's a hit to the ego. It's not necessarily something we want to say, especially if I think I should be somewhere right now that I'm not. That's a hit to the ego. But yet I'm willing to face the facts of reality. And if I'm willing to face the facts of reality by telling the truth, stop lying, tell the truth, I can create an actual action plan to get to where it is that I want to go. But if I'm living in the world of lies, then any plans that I create are lie-based. They're lie-based. So it's a matter of now, if I try to implement these actions, the actions that I'm implementing are based on a target that I have that was based on a lie. And I'll never get there. So as we think about today's podcast, I want you to consider one of two things. Number one, where in your life are you lying? Maybe it's in your health, your fitness, in your eating, in your drinking. So many people say, oh, I don't have a problem with drinking, but yet they go home every single night and they have 2 cocktails. Now, I'm not here to judge. Like, if that's what you want to do, cool. But at least admit that, like, I like to go home and have 2 cocktails at night. Why? Because I get that edge. I get just a little bit of a buzz, and it helps me to relax. There's no power in saying that, but there is power in saying the truth. There is power in me. Like, if you hear yourself say it and you actually hear what you're saying, you kind of go, wow, that's pretty jacked up. There's got to be other ways that I can relax. But yet, I'm claiming that the way for me to relax is to go home and have 2 cocktails every single night. Again, I'm not judging. Do what you got to do. But is it in your health? Is it in your relationships? Is it in your spirituality? Where people, I'm so spiritual or I'm so religious. I go to church all the time. But yet the reality is, the truth is that they haven't been in church for 3 months. But yet they're casting stones at others. Is it in your relationship? Maybe your relationship is not the best that it can be. Like, maybe it's not. I know when we had baby number 1, baby number 2, baby number 3, like each time there was a phase afterward where I just felt disconnected from my wife. And especially in baby 1 scenario and part of baby 2 scenario, I tell people, oh, our relationship is great right now. It's awesome. And the reality was it wasn't. We were roommates. We were trying to figure it out, trying to figure out how to take care of 1 kid, then trying to figure out how to take care of 2 kids. And then finding the time to make sure that we started to make ourselves a priority. But it didn't happen right away. And so, oh no, our relationship is great. My wife and I are on fire. No, there's a waiting period. There's so much more. Like, for me to be able to say to somebody like, no, look. 3 to 4 months afterwards, we're just figuring shit out. I gotta tell you right now, Walker, 3 to 4 months afterwards, we're just figuring shit out. He's a year old now. And we have these ebbs and flows. There's points and times where he needs more attention. All of a sudden, Wyatt and Watson need more attention, and we're getting pulled in different directions. It's like we have to catch ourselves so we can come back together and be strong. And those moments when we get to be together, we have to create strength so that they can endure the times when we might not be together. And I mean, like, just mentally or through intimacy or anything like that, because there's so much going on at home. We've all been there before. Or I could sit here and tell you how I'm awesome and my relationship is awesome all the time. I saw a dude post on Facebook and he said, oh, I hear people say all the time, if you don't have arguments with your spouse, then it's not a healthy marriage. But my wife and I never have arguments. And I'm sitting there going, dude, you're so full of shit. You don't have to argue, yell, raise your voice, but you do disagree on things. There are things that people disagree on. There are things that people like, and the thing is here's the sad part. If they don't, then how are they going to teach your children to manage that shit when it comes up in life? Or maybe there's points in time where they've been scared. And as a result of being scared, like it caused some stress and tension in the relationship. Not that you went off on each other, but it causes stress and tension. Like there's nothing wrong with the admitting of this stuff, but yet we get so caught up in this fake book world that we have to let everybody know how awesome everything is. Instead of just saying, yeah, I haven't won a race yet, but I'm working on it. Part 2 to this becomes very simple. Part 2 to this becomes you just being proud of who you are, owning who you are. Being proud of who you are and owning who you are. See, if he truly owned who he was, he wouldn't have found the need to lie. But when you don't own who you are, then we actually want to blow ourselves up. We want to look better than we really are, so we're going to tell a lie. But if I own who I am, I'll tell the truth and know that some people it's going to resonate with, and they're going to like my vulnerabilities, and other people it's not going to resonate with. And they might not want to listen to me, or they might not want to follow me, and that's okay. That's quite all right. This is why, for me personally, the people that I work with, one of the number one things I hear is like, you're so vulnerable, you're so real with things that go on, because I got nothing to hide. So, as you take a look at your life across body, being, balance, and business, take a look right now. Where is it in your life that you are lying to yourself about something? In one of these 4 areas, it might be all 4 of these areas. And what is the truth? And then identify where you want to go based on that truth. And number 2, very important here, is to own you. Just catch yourself. Look for 2 or 3 scenarios in the next 48 hours that you are going to catch yourself. You're going to catch yourself trying to be something that you are not. And you need to just be proud of who you are. That's it. Just be proud of who you are and the greatness that you possess every single day. I had a conversation with a doc just the other day, and I said that the most important thing you can understand here is that you have everything inside of you that you need to be successful. You don't have to change. We merely want to pull out of you what's inside of you so that you can expand and grow in your life. That's the objective. And then take those traits that aren't serving you and tuck them away somewhere in the deep recesses of your soul, because they'll never leave you. They'll always be a part of who you are, but let's express ourselves for the greatness that lies within. So take a look at your life right now, body, being, balance, business. Where is it that you are lying to yourself? Just straight up, you're lying to yourself. And what is the truth about that situation? Where do you want to go? Number 2, honor who you are, and honor who you are, well, number 1, by telling the truth, and number 2, by just loving who you are. And for some people, it is as simple as this. I'll leave you with this. Go stand in front of the mirror, look in the mirror, and say, I love me alone, and I love me with other people. Now, I heard this affirmation years ago from Mark Victor Hansen, and it was, I like me alone, and I like me with other people. And I was like, no, I don't like me. I love me. And so this is probably at this point in time closing in on, and we're closing in on about 20 years ago since I heard this, and this is exactly what I did. And ever since then, I do this affirmation. I look in the mirror, I say, I love you, I love me alone, and I love me with other people. I love me alone, and I love me with other people. You say that a few times a day over the course of the next 30 days, your energy is going to change, your honesty is going to change, because you'll realize that the most important person in the room that needs to love you is you. And when you love you, it'll make it that much easier for everyone else too. All right, that's all I've got for you here today, folks. Hey, if you haven't already, be incredibly honored if you go over to iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and anywhere else that you can find the Commit and Go podcast, and just give me a rating. You know, it's like any rating. You go, okay, well, what if I think it sucks? Okay, cool. We'll go rate. Just go give me a rating. I'd really appreciate it if you go rate the podcast. You listen. If you're right now, you are listening to me. So just take that moment, go over and just rate it. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe it. And then finally, this is like the final countdown for, as of this podcast, this is like last call for alcohol at the bar. Like, this is your last chance. If you want to get in on Summer Splash Mastermind 2019, you get 3 months of working with me. Send me an email, drtroy@commitandgo.com. That's going to open up a conversation between you and I to see if we can get you into the program. And if not, you're going to walk away with action steps that will benefit you for 3 months and beyond. That's all I've got for you here today. I'm Dr. Troy Dukowitz. This has been the Commit and Go podcast, where we encourage you to make big commitments, take big action, and create big-ass results in your life and business. We'll hear you next time. Bye-bye.